Welcome back to another episode of the Comic Dudes with Attitudes. It was Women's History Month in March, and we didn't release an episode about Women's History Month in March. This is coming out in April, but we're recording it in March, so it still counts. Now, before we get into kind of what I want to do with this episode, I want to preface with something that is sort of it's important to me. And Matt, I don't know what your feelings are on this, but I would imagine that you would agree. But when it comes to things like diversity and inclusion, or letting someone in a marginalized group have their voice be heard, I feel that it's very important to do what is asked of me, whether that is to help amplify that voice or to make room and let that voice be heard on its own. That's why when we did our Black History Month episode, I really just said, Matt, what do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? Like, I'm along for the ride. I'm just here to support whatever you want to talk about. 50% of the world's population is female, yet no one on this podcast is. So I was thinking about how best to approach this, and I feel that rather than injecting my opinion on to the subject at hand, I think it would be better served to just educate. I have a really great article that I found on Comic Book Resources. It's by a guy named Chad Burdett, and it's really just a top 10 list. It's a top 10 list of women that impacted the comic book industry. You know, sort of their role, what they did, what their legacy is. I was looking at it earlier today, and there's some really interesting stuff in here that I had no idea about until I sought out this information. So that's my plan of attack for today. Stick around, because I guarantee you're going to learn something, and how much of a role women have played in the comic book industry. It's a lot more diverse these days, but in the 1900s, it was a different landscape. It's a different landscape. So again, these are not my words. This is an article from comicbookresources.com by Chad Burdett. I will link the article in the description of the episode if anybody wants to go and read it. I'm not going to just read the article verbatim. I'm going to Cliff's Notes this thing. So there's more to find here for those that want it. But we're going to start at number 10 and work our way up. I don't think this is ranked in order of like impact. It might be chronological. I'm not sure. But the first woman on this list, her name is Elizabeth Holloway Marston.
Is that his mistress?
Huh?
Well, is that William Marston's wife or mistress?
It's his wife. I think it's interesting that you went to mistress first.
Well,
they have the same last name, man.
True.
What kind of mistress would that be?
I probably know some of these names because like
you definitely know these names.
I watch a lot of comic book documentaries, and like his wife and also his mistress were very influential in the creation of Wonder Woman. But I'll shut up.
Well, his mistress isn't mentioned here.
Okay.
And his wife is given credit for helping advise on a lot of aspects of Wonder Woman's creation. So you stole the show a little bit there.
I'll shut up. That's
you
what
brought you brought the mistress into this for some reason. I don't know why.
I should get her name.
I have no idea why. They have the same. Do you think this man's cheating on someone with the same last name as him and his wife? It was like, is it an incest mistress?
Did you read some of those early Wonder Woman books?
Unfortunately, I have, and I didn't enjoy it.
There's some interesting stuff going on in those books. So.
Also, I think worth noting, you've used the term mistress. I don't know if that's accurate because they were polyamorous.
Yeah,
so I think this was something that was a known quantity.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that's true.
Yeah, that they do call out. Her name was Olive Bryn.
Yes.
They call her out as well. So you know more about this than I did.
I watch a lot of DC documentaries.
Can't imagine why.
Right.
So maybe I should go to the next one and say, do you know who this is first before I just talk about it? So Flo Steinberg.
Oh, dude, Flo Steinberg was huge, bro. Did she work in like the Marvel bullpen? Like in like this
in the 60s,
70s,
yep,
60s,
yep.
And like she was, I remember like she was definitely in the comics. Like they would mention Fabulous Flo. I remember that. Like they would mention
Yeah.
Fabulous Flo, but like for someone like me, I appreciate Flo because she was like the office administrator and like she made sure like
So
everything like
yes,
ran on
she
time.
coordinated with
Coordinated all
artists
the
to make sure they
deadlines.
met deadlines.
Yep.
She responded to fan letters,
Yep.
made sure artwork was delivered to the Comics Code Authority for approval and adhered to the Comics Code.
Okay.
And during her time at Marvel, she also became very, very interested in the underground comics scene, which was starting to really take shape in the 60s. That's when underground comics really started to do their thing.
Okay.
She also she appeared in an issue of What If. In number 11, she was Invisible Woman in What If number 11.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Sol Brodsky were the other three members of the FF in that issue of What If.
Okay.
See, you knew more about this than I would have given you credit for. Look at you. You got the knowledge, man. You have more knowledge than I had.
I mean, I know some of the names.
All right, so moving on. What about Ramona Fradon? I'm sorry if I didn't say her name right.
I don't know that name. Educate me on that one.
So she began her career in comics in 1950. And this was at a time when it was very unusual for women to work on or illustrate comic books or comic strips. She was an artist.
Okay.
Her first ongoing assignment was with Aquaman.
Okay.
She also created Aqualad, co-created Metamorpho, and she did art on Plastic Man, Freedom Fighters, and Super Friends. So a lot of characters from DC that I personally don't really have a soft spot for, but a pioneer, to be doing that in 1950. That's only 4 years after World War II ended, 5 years after World War II. Like,
it's a big
still the Dark Ages in this country. Slavery was still legal.
I mean,
not really.
Sure, not really. But there were, we won't go into that.
But segregation sure was.
Segregation was real. Jim Crow was real, but we're not going to go into that.
Should have done that in February.
Sure should have. Next year. There's always next year.
I know you know this one. And if you don't know this one, shame on you.
Okay.
Ann Nesenti.
Oh, of course. I haven't got to her run in Daredevil. I did some research, so I don't want to steal everything on Ann Nesenti, but she was really big, like with the X-Men, and kind of like keeping Chris Claremont in line. Her and another woman that I think you're going to hit on later.
She was the editor on Uncanny X-Men.
Like on Uncanny
and New
X-Men.
Mutants.
Because I watched a documentary and it was like Chris Claremont was kind of like all over the place, and she'd be the one to rein him in and be like, "Oh, Chris," like Chris was struggling for like a story, and she'd be like, "Oh, remember that idea you put out like 30 issues ago, you just dropped and never followed up on? Like, how about we go back to that?" So, no, she was really influential.
The role of the editor in comic books, I think, is really understated. Like most people don't realize how much work the editors have to do, especially at places like Marvel and DC. Although you can maybe make the argument not so much anymore because they don't seem to care about continuity or what the hell's going on. But
exactly, that's like this is, I don't know. No. All the credit to Ann.
A few more things about Ann Nesenti. So, one, she was very outspoken politically. She was very, very. They don't use the word feminist to describe her, but it sounds like she was a very outspoken feminist at a time where there probably were not many of them, especially in the comic books. She helped co-create, or no, sorry, not co-create. She created 4 characters for Marvel. Do you know who they are?
Yes, because I think I crossed into your article. I did not know that. I did not know this before doing the research. No, I did not know this.
But who are they? Who are the 4 she created? Do you remember?
I did read the same article you did. It was Typhoid Mary, Longshot, Mojo, and Spiral.
Yep.
Yeah, I wrote those down. I wrote that down. But yeah.
So maybe you didn't have all this knowledge that I thought you did. You just read the same article that I did.
No, I knew about Flo Steinberg and I knew about Ann Nesenti, and I had some. I'm a little
suspicious of you, Matt.
That's fine. That's fine.
I didn't know that she was still writing. I didn't know she wrote Green Arrow and Catwoman during New 52.
I did not know that. She recently
Yeah.
put out a book too, I feel like, but like Marvel,
Uh,
like kind of
mm,
recently here at Marvel.
maybe, I don't know. I mean, this article's from 2021, so
Uh,
might not be. If it was that recent, it's not included in the
yeah, no,
article.
it wasn't that. It's not. It's
This is
after
one
that.
of my one of my personal favorites. Next up, and I know you know who this is, Louise Simonson.
Yeah, I know why it's your favorite too.
Yeah, of course. I didn't realize that she also did work for Marvel. Um, but she started in the 70s. She was the editor of things like Creepy, Eerie, and Vampirella before she left to go to Marvel. And then at Marvel in the 80s, she helped create Power Pack and X-Men. They say like Cable and Apocalypse. I don't think she has. Does she really have any creation credit on Cable? I thought it was a
I
Rob
think,
Liefeld joint
but that would be the
only.
art. That'd be the artistic credit though. Like Rob was like,
Rob drew stuff, man. Rob was the artist.
yeah. Rob was the artist, but like
But he's credited with creating, like,
the
created
whole
characters
thing.
too. That's part of the reason why him and the Image guys wanted to leave Marvel to start Image, is because they were creating IP for Marvel and DC and not allowed to keep those characters. Because I know he created
Oh, the
Deadpool.
Deadpool and like, yeah, I didn't know like
I
Deadpool he
thought he did
created.
Cable too. Maybe I was wrong.
He didn't pay the cable, dude. Rob didn't pay the cable, man. I'm telling
However, the most important thing about Louise Simonson, the chief architect,
she
important
was.
words,
She was.
chief architect
Yes.
on the death of Superman.
Yes.
She also created John Henry, aka Steel.
Her, Jurgens, Mike Carlin,
Yeah, I knew
uh
Jurgens was involved.
Mike
I,
Carlin. I'm trying to think of the other guy who was involved in that too. Um, but they would have like the Superman summit every year, and that's when they came up with the idea to kill him.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Louise. Best Superman story ever written.
Her and her husband are really super cute too. Like they're like those
Walter.
super cute, like older
Yeah.
grandparents you really want. Like they just seem like they're like madly in love still, and I just find them like a
Um,
really cute couple.
if I remember correctly, Walter and Louise used to do appearances in the
They
Northeast a lot, and they would
they
be at
used
Books
to.
Galore even too. I think they did a Books
Really?
Galore appearance one time.
Oh, that sucks, dude. I wish I had like
I'm fairly
gone there.
certain they were at Books Galore at one point.
Yeah, dude, Nascenti, just to go back to Ann Nascenti, she did recently 2 issues of that X-Men Legends series. She was also did an issue. She also wrote in Daredevil, the Zdarsky Daredevil, the 650, which was the really big issue, like one of those anniversary issues. But I remember her writing for X-Men Legends because she had such a tie to X-Men. Sorry to go back to that, but I
No,
was
that's
just looking
fine.
that up.
Okay, moving on to Rachel Pollack.
Know the name, don't know.
So this was in the 90s. She was a science fiction author and an advocate for the women's spirituality movement.
Okay.
What she ended up doing was um, a run on Doom Patrol for DC after Grant Morrison's run, which is a hard act to follow.
Yeah, I
A
would
very
say.
hard act to follow. Or wait, no, do I have that backwards? No, she was after. She was after Grant. Okay, I don't have it backwards. Interestingly enough, about Rachel, she was a transgender woman, and she was tackling issues like sexual identity and being
And then
trans in the 90s, which is
that's
not something that was going to be readily accepted by a lot of people at the time. She also created a character in that run that I didn't read, unfortunately, but the character's name was Coagula.
okay.
And her power, she was a prostitute who gained the ability to thicken liquids and dissolve solids at will after a sexual encounter with Negative Man.
Okay.
And then she ended up having a relationship with Robot Man as well. Interesting character. I might have to go back. I never read that Doom Patrol. I have to go back and read that.
We
Um,
gained something from this.
I know you know this next one. I think most people know. We're now at the point of the list where
Modern
these are
people.
like these are pretty big names. Gail Simone. If you read DC Comics at any point in the last 20 years, you know who Gail Simone is. And if you don't, you probably don't read DC Comics at all. Um, so, uh, like a lot of the women on this list that we're going to get to and have even talked about already, Gail's very outspoken in regards to orientation, gender, race. She's a very progressive mind. Um, I think that. Hold on. Okay, yeah, I knew she was big in Birds of Prey. I thought she did work for Marvel too. Yet they have her down here as
Yeah.
writing Deadpool and Domino.
I feel like I read
Um,
some of that her Domino series and it was pretty good.
yeah, she also has the
Um,
longest run on Wonder Woman.
okay.
Longest female writers run on Wonder Woman. I don't like that we have to qualify
Yeah,
that
it doesn't
as
matter.
female, but it is what it is. But also, she very authentically writes LGBTQIA plus characters, which is an underserved, in my opinion, an underserved group in the comic book world. And Gail was doing it when really probably no one else other than maybe Rachel Pollack and a few others were doing. So, and I really liked a lot of what I've read from Gail. I didn't read Birds of Prey a lot, but I would pick it up here and there when it would cross over. And I always liked her stuff.
Didn't she write Batgirl? Because I feel like I liked Batgirl by her.
I think she did, but it's not mentioned
If
here.
that was,
But I feel like she definitely had a Batgirl run too.
yeah, she was writing the new 52 Batgirl, which I really liked.
Okay, that makes sense.
That was like my first introduction to Gail Simone was that.
So this next one, I actually didn't know who this was until I read this. Her name's Karen Berger.
Vertigo, bro.
Yes.
Huge.
Yeah.
She's a
Swamp Thing,
big time
Sandman, Legion of
dude.
Superheroes, House of Mystery. Not a big DC guy.
Yeah, I could see that. She was big into recruiting like UK talent, like Morrison and Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman. Like, and I really I like that she was like in a position of authority and like she ran that line. Like she
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
cultivated that line.
she
She was
spearheaded the
you had
creation of that
yeah,
line.
like that
Like
that was
that
like
was
all
her
her.
her thing. Like Fables, Hellblazer, 100 Bullets, Preacher, V for Vendetta, Why the Last Man.
Yeah.
That was all her. I mean, she is. Shame on me for not knowing who this was because I love a lot of those comics and I love so much of what Vertigo meant to comics
Yeah, like
when I was
that's
getting
your
into
shit.
comics. When I didn't know what independent comics were or like how to find them or where to get them, DC Vertigo was right there waiting for me. That was I feel like for a lot of 90s kids like me, DC Vertigo was the bridge into a lot of really mature and independent type of comics coming from a quote unquote safe publisher like DC.
Mm.
I mean, I don't, we could do an entire episode on how influential Vertigo was and
Oh
some of
yeah.
those creators.
Because I feel like they tried to bring it back a couple years ago and it
They
didn't
did.
have I don't think Karen Berger was involved in it. It was just like
She wasn't.
died and petered out. It was just
She
like
went
a
on to do her own thing at Dark Horse.
yeah.
What was it called? It's in here somewhere. There was called Burger Books.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I shout out another DC woman that we completely like blew by that
Well, can we wait
uh
until the end of the list to make sure we didn't talk? We're not going to talk about her.
yeah, I don't think you're going to though. But
All
yeah,
right. Well,
it's fine.
it'll be an honorable mention.
She's a very honorable mention, but yeah.
So the next one on the list, it's actually um, this person's heavily influential, but it's loosely tied to comics, but they're very high on the list because of the legacy of this person's sort of, I don't want to say work, but it's Alison Bechtel.
I know the name, I don't know.
You probably know the name because of the Bechtel test. Maybe not. So
What's
let
the
me
Bechdel
first tell
test?
you why she's included in this list due to comics. She was a cartoonist, not listed as a comic book illustrator or anything, a cartoonist. She did like a graphic novel type of thing called Fun Home, a family tragicomic, which is an autobiographical telling of her childhood leading up to her father's suicide.
Okay.
The thing that Allison, when I say Rachel, Allison is really most known for is the Bechdel test. And she created this test, which is essentially, it's like a measure of gender equality within film. So
Yeah.
all films should be stood up to the Bechdel test. And what the Bechdel test is that a movie, when doing the test, you look for instances where at least two women converse about something other than men. I.e., do these characters have worth beyond their relationships to men within their own stories? 40% of movies fail the Bechdel test, which is insane to me. I know Wonder Woman 1984 probably failed the Bechdel test. I was raging about that movie a year ago when it came up on our podcast because of how they would take a character like Wonder Woman, who is the epitome of strong, independent, female role model, whatever, and ties everything about her story and seemingly her worth to Steve Trevor, a man who arguably, if there's any woman in DC's entire universe that needs no man, it would be Diana, Princess of the Amazons. So that's her primary contribution. Alison Bechdel is the Bechdel test. She also happened to be an illustrator, did comic strips and stuff like that. But the Bechdel test is really, that is used constantly.
Like actual film houses use that, or producers use that, or like
Everyone
is that
uses
just a
it.
thing
It's
that
just
we,
everyone.
the people in the
use
community
it.
say?
Like people,
Okay.
like within
I've
the
never
industry,
heard of
like the
this.
Bechdel test is a thing. Like
Okay.
it's embarrassing if your movie fails the Bechdel test. You can't have two female characters in your movie that have a conversation about something that's not men. It's weird, right?
Yeah, I think the context of matters, but yeah, that make like
I don't
two
think
in
the
the
context matters. In a 2-hour long movie, two female characters don't have a conversation about something other than men.
you're telling me that in a romantic comedy, two women couldn't have like a conversation about men. I'm just not understanding it, I
In a
guess.
movie, two female characters do not have a conversation that is not about men.
You can't have a conversation at all about men.
No, you have this backwards in your brain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, I don't understand it, so it's fine.
What the Bechdel test is essentially doing is saying that these two female
Women aren't
characters,
beholden to men.
the only time
it.
they speak to each other is to talk about men, and that is bullshit. Women have more worth within your story than to just exist to talk about their relationships with men.
Sure. Yes.
I don't understand how this is not easy to understand.
It's fine.
If you were watching a movie,
it's fine, dude.
Let me finish.
Okay.
If you were watching a movie and every time two male characters spoke to one another, let me finish. The only thing they talked about were their relationships to women, you wouldn't go, huh, that's weird that these men have nothing to say other than things about their relationships with women.
I'm saying if there's multiple women in a movie and they're having a conversation, if one of those conversations like was about a man, it fails the test. No, you're saying
no, that's not what I said.
No, that's how I'm interpreting. That's what I'm telling you. That no, what you're saying is like every time a female character interacts, they should not be talking about a man, which I agree with you. That
yes,
makes no sense.
That's the Bechdel.
Yeah,
the Bechdel test is
I was not under,
when a movie fails a Bechdel test. It is because within that film, every time two women talk, they're talking about a man.
Gotcha. Now I wasn't understanding it before. That's what I was trying to get at.
Completely devalues.
Yeah, no, that's
a woman's existence.
That's ridiculous. That if 40% of movies fail,
40%
that's crazy.
It's absurd.
That's absurd. Well, Is it like new movies or just movies in general? Like I'm curious,
This is
like that 40.
everything.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't. It doesn't
Okay.
say here when the Bechdel test
Yeah.
was created.
Like when it started. I'm curious about like when it started.
Yeah, it's a conversation for another day,
Yeah.
potentially. So yeah, that's Alison Bechdel. Very influential.
Thanks, Alison Bechdel. I learned something today. That's
You
good.
did, and you got me riled up in the process.
No, of course.
Of course, that's the only thing I'm good for. There's a test for an episode of this podcast that I don't get angry. I'll fail it every time.
And it all stems from me not understanding something.
At least we can laugh about it already, I guess. Okay, last name on this list, and this one,
Yeah.
I knew this one right away. You will too. It's Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Oh boy. Yeah, I know Kelly Sue.
What was that? What was that for?
I don't particularly love one of the statements she made, but she's very influential in comic books, and I get it.
I mean, from what I understand, she's very feminist forward,
She is.
and she does not like the damsel in distress stereotype.
She does, much like Gail Simone.
So, I guess I don't know what statement you're talking about that's upsetting, but the only thing that I don't like about Kelly Sue DeConnick is when she gave Carol Danvers a mohawk. Other than that, I'm on board.
No, I know we come from like two slightly different places, so I'm not gonna get into it. It's fine, dude. It's all good.
Is it the sexy lamp test? Is that the problem?
No,
okay.
I don't. No, it's not the sexy lamp test.
Okay,
it's okay.
All right.
No, she should be a big deal because of Captain Marvel for you.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and she's probably the most she's probably the most prominent female creator because of some of the she
hasn't done much recently though.
She hasn't, but what she has done has been very high profile. I can't think of a female writer for the big two that's a quote unquote bigger name than Kelly Sue DeConnick.
See, personally, like
that. I can't think Gail of one.
Yeah, no, I mean, but Kelly Sue has the name though. But like, part of me is like, is that because
that's what I'm talking about? Is the name?
Well, yeah, based on her name, is that because of her work, or is that because?
No, it's because of her name. I'm talking about like she's the most prominent. Like, there's not a bigger name than her that I know of. There's one that I like more.
Yeah,
it's probably the name you're going to say too. Your honorable mention. If you want to get to the honorable mention,
does yours begin with an F?
You know it does.
Okay, no, that's not mine. That's not mine at all.
Oh, okay.
I definitely, I guess I would have two honorable mentions then. This was good though. Like this was good. If we're gonna do honorable mentions, the name I was thinking about that we didn't throw out at all. Do you know the name Jeanette Kahn by any chance?
I don't. Enlighten me.
Jeanette Kahn was literally the publisher of DC Comics from the era you love, like 1989 up until 2002. So really? She was like running DC. Yeah, dude, she was running DC.
Did she help kill Superman too?
She was there, and she definitely knew.
She signed off on it.
She signed off on it.
Dude,
she
put
was
her on the list.
Yeah, like she was like
put her at number one.
But no, Jeanette Kahn was there for like a lot of that stuff, and I was like, man, how did I even forget about her?
I didn't even know. Again, that's part of the problem, like.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
You don't hear about female creators in comics other than, and Kelly Sue DeConnick, I guess, partially to your point, so many people know about her because she says things that get attention. And
yes.
to elicit change, sometimes you do have to say things to draw attention to yourself.
Yes.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yes. That's just not my personal approach, and I know that we have different approaches in life, which are so like I'm more of like a Gail Simone type. Like she's out there, she pushes it. Like Kelly's definitely way more outspoken than any of them. And Gail Simone is like she's a feminist and she puts it out there and she's not hiding it. Kelly will like smack you in the mouth. She's that smack you in the mouth type feminist,
Yeah.
which
But
is your kind of approach, which you like, which I know that's what you like.
Who's more popular, man?
No, it's
You know?
it's fine.
The
It's
methods
fine.
work. God, we got a president out of that same type of strategy, unfortunately.
We sure did. The Empire claps back. No. So like no. So Jeanette Kahn was one. I'll let you do your other one. The other one that was a really big deal for me that I'm really, really sad about that I don't get more work from. Do you know the name? I know you have to know the name. I hope you know the name. Sarah Pacelli.
Yeah.
So she was very influential in Miles Morales, who is a character that recently I've been dragging through the mud.
I don't think it's recent. This is you got Miles on a bell curve. You started out, you hated him, then you're like, oh, he's okay, and now we hate him again.
We're coming back up now. Like I read that number one, I'm on board, but like I just love Sarah Pacelli's an artist, by the way, for Marvel, and she was an artist for Marvel. Worked with Brian Bendis a lot on the Ultimate Spider-Man era with Miles Morales. That was kind of like the golden age of Miles, in my opinion. As we've talked about, like I didn't really love Miles from initial conception, but her art definitely made me fall in love with that character. She's super talented. As someone like I just loved how she drew Miles, drew just like black people in general. If we go through the history of comics, you might know that we might not be accurately represented all throughout comics. And
you can just say it, man.
We were gorillas.
Black
and
people were
gray
drawn like caricatures,
and,
like the most racist iconography you can think of. Asians got the same treatment.
Exactly. So seeing black people drawn like where like Miles looks like, you know, one of my little young cousins, and that it was like really cool. Like and you know I'm like I'm the slow down on representation guy sometimes, but like this is once again representation done right, and I'm all about that. I'm all about when it is done right and it is justified, and I think that might be where I turn it over to you about some real good representation in comics for your honorable mention.
All right. I really do. I really want to challenge your representation done right statement, but today's not the day. We'll save that for another day.
That's gold. That's another episode.
We'll save that for another day. I take issue with that statement, but you'll have to come back for another episode to find out why I do. Anyway, so
he's the Deconic to my Gail Simone.
Yes. I'm not surprised that this creator wasn't on that list, because I think, you know, at this stage, she might not be one of the 10 most influential women in comics, but 20 or 30 years from now, if she sticks around, I don't know what her plans are beyond, you know, the comic that she's doing now, but the longer that Fiona Staples stays in the industry, the more likely that her having a extremely important and lasting legacy becomes, because she is not just one of the best female comic book artists I've ever seen. She's one of the best comic book artists I've ever seen. Her gender is irrelevant because the art that she creates is truly art. It's not just like, you know, silly panels with Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock. You know what I mean? Like, she's creating high art. For those that don't know, I don't know how you wouldn't know if you listen to us, but if you don't know, Fiona Staples is the artist on Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. Any other artist in Saga is not Saga. And BKV knows that too, because when Fiona needed to take a break, they take a break because they can't do that book without her. That doesn't tell you how important somebody is. I don't know what will. Name a comic that just goes, you know what, we're not coming out for 3 months, 6 months, 3 years. My artist needs a break. Doesn't happen. And then to return with the same quality, just consistent. Never been a fill-in. Never been a fill-in. She's drawn every panel of every issue of Saga, and she will draw every panel of every issue until it completes. And unlike Matt, I don't care how long it takes to come out.
Hey, that's a consistent creative team and good art. I'm fine. You know, I'm good with that.
2 weeks ago, you weren't good with it. You were complaining about it 2 weeks ago. You're on record complaining about it. Nice try. Flip
Whatever,
flopper.
whatever,
See what I mean? Flip flopping, constantly flip
whatever,
flopping.
whatever, dude.
Dude,
I'm on
dude's
Fifth
on
Ave
record.
so bad.
Literally, I have video evidence of him flip flopping. This is fantastic.
It's the ongoing, man. It's an ongoing. I don't know. It's fine. The death of the ongoing.
So, just to kind of put a bow on this, yeah, maybe this wasn't the best way to go about celebrating Women's History Month in comics, but I do feel really strongly about not speaking over someone else, and because neither one of us are women, this felt like the only logical way to do this is just to celebrate some of these creators and draw attention in whatever small way our tiny podcast can to their efforts, their contributions to the industry, and to a hobby that we both love. So hope that you learned something. Not necessarily you, Matt, but like the tens of people that listen to our podcast.
Well, at first when you want to step aside and provide someone a voice, I really thought you had like a woman there, like someone from a comic shop, or like
I'm just gonna like
have
slide over and somebody's gonna join me on frame.
That's what I thought was gonna happen.
I brought this random person over to my house. No, we're not big time like that.
Well, it was painful, but I did learn the Bechdel test, so I feel like I can accurately represent the Bechdel test.
You should go ask Krista, your wife, if she's aware of the Bechdel test. I bet she is.
I'm gonna ask her. I don't think she is.
And if she's not, you can tell her about it, and then like
I'm gonna scream at her.
Well, you don't have to scream at her. Maybe it's still Women's History Month, man. At least wait till April if you're gonna be a dick about it. Golly! All right, let's move on to the news.
It's time for the news. From Matt. Because Dave doesn't really pay attention to this.
Quick news. Do you have any news by any chance?
I do not. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine. I don't need to put you on the spot. But
I didn't come prepared with news this week. I read a lot of stuff, though. So when we get to the next part of the podcast, I'll have a lot to talk about.
We'll get to that real quick. So, all right. Ubisoft, my favorite publisher of bloated games that take way too long to complete. They're pulling out of E3. So I'm feeling
who hasn't pulled out of E3? Who's left?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Who is left? Like all the major publishers are doing their own things. Ubisoft is doing the Ubi Connect thing, or Way Forward, do they call them, on June 12th now. So like, I don't know what's going to be at E3. It's just going to be sad. But I just saw that like today. I was like, oh, well, that's something just worth mentioning. Topic number 2. Did you see the first Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix? I never saw it. Okay. Did you see any of the photos for Harley Quinn?
I did.
What'd you think?
I mean, it looks like it makes sense within the universe of the Joker movie that is self-contained.
Yeah.
I still don't know why I'm supposed to care about that movie. I really don't.
Yeah.
There's no Batman. Without Batman, I don't care about the Joker.
You like more ongoing movies. This is more of a it's more of a mini-series approach. It's kind of off in its own thing, doing its own thing. So it's like, why? But seriously, like, it's kind of like, why should I care about this? Like, it's just like this project in its own universe. Like, I kind of don't care how good it is. But like you literally took the words out of my mouth. Like, it looks, I haven't seen that movie, but the screenshots and trailers or whatever I've seen, like, she looks good for the context of that movie. Like, it makes sense. But yeah,
you know how in the Batman comics, every so often there's the debate around like, do we have all of these villains in Gotham because of Batman, or do we have Batman because there were all these villains in Gotham?
Yeah, essentially
getting to the point of, these two things are in sort of a parasitic relationship. Like, one doesn't really need to exist without the other, sort of. And I don't think a Joker movie needs to exist without Batman.
Yeah.
I know it's a downer take, and a lot of people like that movie. I just don't care about it.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely see that approach. Like, in a superhero movie, I kind of want them all to count. So like, kind of like, what is the point? Even as horrible as DC movies have been, they at least tried to have some connective tissue to them,
Mhm.
you know. So like, if there's really none, it's like, what's the point? But did you see one of Marvel's longest running titles is about to end?
No.
Oh, it's gonna be rebooted, but the writer is leaving. Kelly Thompson is leaving Captain Marvel
Hmm.
at issue 50. Do you know that this is the longest running Marvel title? It is the
That's
longest running Marvel title currently because they constantly reboot at 50 issues. So like
that's
that's a good run.
embarrassing.
I mean, it's embarrassing. That's a good run for for Marvel though. Like I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really cool. Like
I've
every
actually really enjoyed Captain Marvel. Like really enjoyed Captain Marvel since she's been
yeah,
on it.
they'll probably put a good creator on that book. You know, that's I think that's one of their.
Well, they're ending it because there's a movie coming out. That's the only reason they want to start a new number
Think they'll
one.
reboot it, but
Of course,
if
that's what
she's
they
not gonna
do.
be
That's why
on,
there's a new
yeah, it's
Guardians
true.
comic starting next month.
I didn't even think of that.
That's what
That's
Marvel
true.
does now.
But from what I've read of the run, like it was good. Like I liked it. Like
Yes,
I
it was
actually
really
did
good.
like it.
It was
I just
really
stopped
good.
collecting it in paper, so I just kind of fell off the train. But no, it's a good book. So that's bittersweet, sad, but we'll see who's on the reboot. I didn't even think of like the movie coming out, so that's why they're killing it. But
The reason why
so they
Marvel
can.
does anything.
That's true. Uh,
Not to be a downer, but
that's we're 2 for 3 downer topics. All right. Did you see pretty much the Spider-Man PS5 game Spider-Man 2, the release date was like somewhat announced by an actor on purpose?
no.
So the
Is it this
guy who's
year?
yeah, the guy who's
Ooh.
playing Venom, Tony Todd, he actually played Candyman. Do you remember he's the black dude?
Mm-hmm.
He played
Mm-hmm.
that guy. I didn't know he was Venom. So I gotta send this picture there where he like put it on Twitter. It's like him in this pool. It's like a really weird picture. I will send it to you though so you can see it. But he pretty much was like, games come, everything's tracking good for September, marketing in August, XYZ. And you know someone at like Sony was like probably freaking out when this dude put that out on Twitter. So we're apparently a September release date for Spider-Man. Do you know what else comes out in September?
Mm.
On the other side of the street, Starfield. No, Starfield's going to get probably beat down by Spider-Man big time. Well, Xbox isn't trying to sell games, but that's going to be a crazy September.
I don't know if
Like,
that's even the same audience.
it's not. It's definitely not.
Like,
You
there's
know they're going to
crossover
be.
for sure, but
Yeah, you know they're going. It's going to get compared. They're going to get compared because that's
yeah.
just
I
how
mean,
everything
I
is.
feel
But
like I'm interested in Starfield. Don't
yeah,
get me wrong. I don't really like Bethesda RPGs, but this is the one that's got the subject matter that I'm the most interested in because it
your
reminds me of
stuff.
Mass Effect.
Exactly.
But the last several games that Bethesda has launched, the launch has been a disaster.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like, will it even be functional on day one? Like,
Yeah, so
it'll be
like there's
ready.
no
It's gonna
shot
be
I'm buying it day one.
exactly.
No shot. And it's going to be
Yeah,
on Game Pass forever, so
you don't need to buy it.
yeah, I'll just pay it in January, play it in January. Like
Yeah, you don't need to buy it. I'm not touching.
I'm just gonna play Spider-Man. I'll buy that.
Exactly. You got to buy that. There you
Yeah.
go. You know, ain't no discount on
Yeah.
that. So let's make sure we chat offline about a Venmo for that. But yeah, so
We can chat online about it. It's not like it's illegal. You want to split on a Spider-Man pre-order?
I cannot confirm nor deny. That is what I
Oh
will
my
do.
god.
I will not confirm nor deny that I would like the legendary edition of that game.
All right. All right, man.
But yeah, Tony
Good thing you
Todd's
put
out
it in
here.
code like that.
Yeah, yeah. Throw we're cracking the code. But Tony Todd, thank you, Candyman, for letting us know when Spider-Man's coming. I appreciate that. Last piece of news. I honestly I have too many concussions from football, so I don't really remember if we even talked about this or not. Did you see they have this? It's way far off. One, I hope it even happens. But did you see this TMNT Last Ronin game?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if we talked about that. I couldn't
We
remember if we
haven't.
talked
That
offline about
actually
it.
did see that news broke over the weekend.
Yeah.
or last week, end of last week. So we haven't talked about it yet, but
So I saw there it was on like every site, but the one
I
person
haven't read Last Ronin yet. I still have to do
I
that.
haven't either. Do you know? I'm not gonna go into it. Do you know the premise of the book though?
I do.
Yeah. So apparently it's supposed to be God of War esque.
Yes, I saw that
Um,
too.
I mean, pretty much the last Ronin is the last turtle, but like in this,
Yes.
what I liked on this that it said on Destructoid, you'll actually be able to play as the other turtles through flashback scenes, so that's kind of cool.
Okay.
But yeah, like this is one of those things where I don't want to get too hyped because one, it's not even in production, it's so far away,
And they haven't made a good
and
Ninja Turtles game in like
I
20
didn't even think
years.
of that, but yeah, that too. So yeah, that's a pretty cool, some pretty cool stuff in regards to like video games and crossover properties stuff that we like. But yeah, Spider-Man was definitely probably the highlight that it's coming this year for sure.
Um, this isn't necessarily news, but it is news adjacent.
News of Jace.
I know you're not watching The Mandalorian, right?
I'm not. I'm gonna get caught up, but
All
yeah,
right.
I'm
So
not
there's
watching
4
it.
episodes so far that are out for the new and I think final season of The Mandalorian.
It's the final.
I think it's only 3 seasons.
Okay, didn't
I
know
could be
that.
wrong.
Didn't know that.
However, fun little Star Wars factoid. In a flashback scene, there's a Jedi
Mm,
that helps Grogu, and you know this. You saw this already, right?
redemption,
Yes.
redemption.
And the Jedi is played by the man who voiced Jar Jar Binks, and this poor bastard.
What he went through, dude. The ringer, the
I mean,
ringer that
he
man
said
went
that
through.
he thought about killing
About suicide.
himself
Yeah,
because of how bad the fan backlash was over that character.
yeah.
So that was a nice. I finally watched that episode last night with my girlfriend. We were behind, so we had to catch up over the weekend. But yeah, it was a fun little moment. I knew about what that was before I saw the episodes. It was nice to like really get to experience that and like know why that's important for the actor. You don't
Yeah, dude.
often get to have that sort of a connection to the actor while watching a scene for the first time, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad that he got some redemption because, like you
Yeah.
said, he went through some dark times.
Yes.
So
All right.
I'm good.
Moving on.
You're
All right, we'll
moving
move
on.
on. So I still haven't played anything other than Apex Legends, but
Yeah.
I did do some reading. So I'll defer to you. I'm gonna bring it home with what I read after you go.
Okay. I didn't do a whole lot. Well, I read all my Spawn, but we don't need to go through that. So your hatred of Spawn. I know that you hate this
I don't
like
hate it.
universe.
I just don't like what they did
You're
to
not
it.
disinterested in Spawn right now.
Yeah.
Like you can just read Spawn. You understand this, right? You could just
Mhm.
get Spawn.
Yeah.
It's not connected to anything else.
No, but it's not a horror book anymore.
Okay, so
I
yeah,
don't want
that's
to read
right.
superhero Spawn. I want to read horror Spawn.
Okay,
I got enough superheroes.
okay.
That's
Well,
my problem.
All right. Well, I
I
read
just don't like the
Spawn.
direction the book went.
Okay, okay. I was just like, because it's not like they're like. I guess when you say superheroes, I'm thinking like 1980s. Like, see this issue of Scorch for this. Like that is not.
Yeah,
That
no,
doesn't
it's just
happen.
that
Like,
it's superhero,
okay,
like overarching superhero. And like Todd said that in a letters column right before I dropped it. He was like, we're going to change the tone of the book and it's going to be more, Al's going to be more like a superhero. We're going to have these connected, like these other books that take place at the same time. And I was just like, no, just give me horror, man. I don't want all this.
so my comic shop remove.
Yeah, exactly.
Unclick.
So the content's not for me. I don't need to. I
No,
don't need
that's
to
good.
engage in it.
That's good. So reading Spawn, playing Call of Duty campaign still really solid. I actually like felt bad and I was like, I need to use this Marvel app. So I started reading the Captain America Sentinel of Liberty, which is the Steve Rogers book.
How is that? I have some interest in that too.
It's pretty well. I read issue 3, and they're doing the one thing I hate with Captain America, which is like his always. I mean, this always happens, but like what you thought about Captain America wasn't true. So whoever made his shield, actually, this was like this evil organization, and his shield actually represents. They're called the organization is called the Outer Circle, and like they talk about how each of the like three rings of the shield represent something, and the star represents something, and I was just like, all right, guys, all right, like it, whatever. But like art is good. I'm gonna finish it. I just kind of waited for six of them to pile up so I could just read the whole arc. But it's okay. Like I compared to the previous run, I did not like the Ta-Nehisi Coates run at all. So this is like more of a traditional kind of Captain America deal. So I did like that a lot. Um, Another book that I read that we need to talk about is a famous song by Alicia Keys. No one, no one, no one. So I picked up Nowhere number one.
No one.
No,
You said
yeah,
nowhere.
Nowhere, no one number one. Dave said I would like this book. If I'm honest, I like it. I'm very confused though what's going on, and I don't know if that's intentional or if I'm a dummy. I did read the back. I did read the back matter, so it made a lot more sense. There was just like it was a really big issue for like a number one, which I appreciate. It was like oversized, but there was just like a lot of characters, and I just don't know their place yet. I thought the ending was cool. The back pages did give me a little bit more reference about like what's going on. I'm used to like Criminal, it's only like two characters, so there was like a lot of characters. So I'm like, who's important, who's not? But I guess that's part of the fun of it. But art was solid. It mixed like superhero art, but kind of like the more Brubaker and Phillips kind of art. So I'm like, yeah, I'm down for this. I did pre-order number 2. I added it late to my final order cutoff, so I'm good. And I pre-ordered 3 already. So I did like it. I was just a little. You might have to talk me through that. Talk me through that one if
Okay.
it doesn't come together in
right.
issue number 2.
Will
but
do.
I did
I
enjoy
mean,
it.
I think you're spot on. It was definitely
Okay, I didn't know if
it
like,
was
you
dense.
had it all dialed in
With characters.
Yeah.
I had to reread a couple of parts.
Okay,
And
I did
really,
too.
I had to focus up while I was reading that thing and go, okay, this person is this person is that person.
The
This
brothers
person
look
did that.
alike too. Like they look alike. The names
Yeah.
are. I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But
It took me a bit.
I'm sure it'll come together.
I think so too.
Last thing, and then I'll turn it over. I've really been enjoying, and I'm sad that it's a good thing that I'm having a child, but my time is going to start to become very limited. But I'm really enjoying playing Apex with Dave. I really am.
Yes.
I'm bad at it.
No, you're not.
I complain that I have to put my whole clip in someone to kill them, but you were giving me grief about not inviting you yesterday. I literally just jumped on and played one game, and of course it was gun game, and I love gun game is like my favorite thing in that game, and I'm bad at it. And just dodging when the last person has the kill and they're trying to throw the knife at you. Like, dude, there's 2 guys, and I was just like dodging, and then I used my powers, Wraith, and ran away. It's a really fun game. I think for you people that don't like the traditional like battle royale. They have a control mode, a gun game mode, and a team deathmatch mode. So like that could be a good entry point for you to get in and kind of play the game and learn. So I'm enjoying that game,
I'm glad,
especially
man.
on Xbox.
You're not as bad as you think you are. I have played that
bad.
game with some truly awful people.
I'm sure, like,
just terrible, terrible people.
I wish you could have saw the game that I like yesterday. I know I had 6 kills, but like my team was real bad. Like I felt real good that game, but they all quit. So I should have took a screenshot capture of the shot of all of our stats, but I didn't know when you leave they're gone. So it's just like my score.
Team deathmatch it keeps that up there.
Okay.
And control it keeps it up there, but gun run they can just quit out and you don't see it.
Yeah, but I'll stop talking. You're up.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm glad you're having fun with Apex. I'm having fun playing with you too. So I did some catch up reading. I read the 3 most recent issues of Power Rangers. So I read 103, 104, and 105.
Gotta get on it. I'm behind now. I think I'm 2 behind now.
You know what, man? I'm on the brink. I'm on the brink.
Just more of the same.
I really liked the Omega Rangers. And when
Yeah,
they
you
when they
did.
brought
You
from the
did.
when they went from 2 series into one combined series, and I don't get any Omega Rangers anymore, not having that much fun, to be honest.
Mm, mm.
The Omega Rangers were far more interesting. They had Dakin or whatever his name was, or Draken or whatever. Evil Jason. They had Evil
Wolverine's
Jason
son.
up in there,
Yeah, evil Jace, Lord
just going through
Draken,
the universe, like helping like
destroying.
they were just like spacefaring Power Rangers, and that was cool. But like Angel Grove Power Rangers aren't as cool to me. Sorry.
We appreciate your years of service.
I had fun. I'm not
It was
saying I'm going to stop,
it was a good run. Don't do
but we'll see what we'll see what happens with. They brought Rita Repulsa is back.
spoilers.
You read that already. You saw
Spoilers.
that
I can
already.
finally use. I can finally use the spoilers.
You know,
tag.
you told me you
Spoilers.
read 103 already.
Golly.
I thought you read 103.
Oh man, it's good. I mean, the covers kind of give it away a little bit. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
but
It's fine.
I truly thought you had already
It's
read that, so
fine.
I'm sorry.
It's
I
all
didn't
good.
know that you hadn't read that. I thought
I'm
you said
pretty
that you
sure.
read it.
Don't worry when Diamond Previews is like Rita's back. Don't worry, you didn't
Yeah,
spoil it.
that's true. Good point.
I'll get you off the hook.
I also caught up on Rogue Sun.
I got to work on my massive.
So I am
stuff
now
next.
100% caught up on Massiveverse. I have nothing left to read Massiveverse except for Inferno Girl Red and Radiant Pink, because I'm just waiting until they're fully out before I read them. So
Same.
so yeah, I read Rogue Sun. What numbers are these? 11, 10, 11.
You're going on a run, dude. You're on a
Yeah.
run.
You know, I still really like Rogue Sun. I feel like the series is starting to meander a little bit. It was like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
And then they had that super cool Choose Your Own Adventure issue. And everything since that Choose Your Own Adventure issue, maybe it's just a lull and they're building to something, but I feel like they did a lot of really high
First arc,
beats,
man.
really big reveals, really shocking things, and now they're sort of how do you match that? I don't know.
Maybe that's just like the lull thing, because that's how I was like super into Radiant Black. And then it just like hit a lull point for me. It's just like, it's a good book, but it's like, I feel like those Massive Verse books, they really get you in the first like arc. The first 2 arcs are like, whoa. And then, I don't know. They're still good.
I mean, Rogue Sun's still in its second arc. It's not even done with 2 yet.
It's better than most Marvel or DC books, so I'll tell you
Oh,
that. So that's
kills
why I'm
them.
like,
Absolutely shits all over.
That's why I won't even drop them. Like it's fine. It does what it does.
I mean, I'm still in for the long haul on Rogue Sun. I trust that there's more stuff coming. It's just that Choose Your Own Adventure issue was such a high, and it's really hard to follow something like that up. So I'm gonna trust in the fact that I know it's a good book, and I'm just gonna ride it out for a few more months and see what goes on. I'm likely not dropping it because it's probably the best Massiveverse book unless No One can unseat it, which I think is a real possibility for me, depending on what happens in No One.
We'll be fired back up in 2 months when that super massive crossover happens again, because those are cool.
Yes. And the last thing that I read, I talked about it last week. I'm gonna hold it up again. I read The Forged. I told you I'd read it.
Cutting.
Huh?
That is a weird cutting of a book, right? It's like that.
Yes.
The weird oversized book or something.
There's a glare from my light. Sorry.
I could see.
It's like in between comic size and magazine size for $5.99. Dude, this book's awesome. Art's gorgeous. It's a really cool take on, sci-fi space stuff. It gives kind of like a little Warhammer.
Okay.
In some ways, the Forged is a group of soldiers in the I forget what the name of like the leader is, like I don't know, it's like Queen or whatever, but the Forged is a special group of soldiers that are in like these little like mech suits. They look like that's why I said Warhammer, because they look like little Warhammer armors.
Little power armor actions going on,
and they're on this royal ship, and they get access to some things that they shouldn't have because of what their station is within their society and within their military. Like the Forged are really like a special forces black ops kind of group.
Okay.
And they're given access that they would never be given otherwise to the ship and to one of like the leader of their queen or whatever has these other beings that are a part of them. They're like these sort of ethereal women that sort of have witchy psychic powers. And one of them is on this ship. I don't want to give away too much, but something happens. That person that's on the ship sends the Forged on a mission, and there's something inside the mind of the leader of the Forged that was put in, like was implanted in there basically by that being. She doesn't know what it is. Like she can't access what it is, but she'll find out like when she's supposed to find out, and then they drop the Forged on this planet with like these insect creatures.
Sounds a little Starship Troopers-y too.
Yes, it is very much a Dave book. Might not be a Matt book, but it's definitely a Dave book.
Okay. It's good.
And then I also was going to start reading something digitally. I didn't want to go back to No Man's Land, and I haven't felt the desire to go back to Revival. And I have a couple of weeks before I have to read the next 2 trades for Invincible for our April episode. So I was like, you know what? Let's go through the Comixology library. Let's download something that I bought and haven't read yet because there's plenty to choose from. And I'm going to start something. So I go into my library, and I remember in our revisit of the paper versus digital, I said all of the books that people had archived were back in Comixology. So I see all of my unarchived books in my library again, and I'm pissed about it. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do it again. So I went through. It took me probably 20 minutes to go through one by one and hide all of the things that I don't want to see in my library. By the time I was done with that, I was so tired, I didn't want to read anymore. So I went to sleep. And the next night, I was like, okay, tonight's the night. I'm going to start something digitally. So I open up Comixology as I'm laying in bed, and I go to my library, and what do I see, Matt? Every single book that I had hidden the night before, back in my library, just staring me in the face. All I want to do is archive some shit I don't want to see anymore, and Comixology will not let me do it.
Did you do an update or something?
No.
Even though that shouldn't affect anything, but
nothing changed.
Sorry,
I'm still a little sick.
You're right. It's just so interesting. Like, it's not that difficult.
It's terrible. It's just every single time I feel like I find something new to complain about. It just sucks.
It
just sucks.
It's not good. It's not good.
But that's it for me for reading, and obviously playing. I only played Apex Legends, so not much else to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm gonna try to dig in some books this week. So
you should. I don't have a great segue into the end of the episode this week. Sorry. This is the 1 week you were waiting for where I don't have something clever to transition out of. Golly, this congestion is killing me, man.
But you know it's not congested.
No, that's terrible. That was terrible. That was terrible. I don't know what you just said. That was terrible. Our like box? What the fuck is a like box?
Our likes and our iTunes reviews aren't very congested. How about
no one does iTunes reviews anymore.
Whatever.
Who uses iTunes?
If you want, you can write us a piece of snail mail.
You actually, where are you going to send that to?
We can send it to your house, not mine.
Oh, you have so much to learn.
I know.
You got to get a P.O. box for that stuff, man.
That's true.
Well, what my esteemed co-host is trying to say is that it would benefit us greatly if you could share the podcast with somebody. Or if you don't share it, just like it when you listen to it or watch it, because that helps us boost within the algorithm and exposes us to more people. We can't we can't grow without your help. So anything you could do would be super beneficial to us, and we'd really appreciate it. Our Twitter handles are in the description of this video or audio episode. I am struggling. I'm so sorry. I got to take better care of myself. And I think all of you should take care of yourselves too. We'll see you in 7 days. My name is Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Bye-bye.
Peace.